Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we are taking a journey to the rugged, wind-swept foothills of the Zagros Mountains in the Sulaymaniyah Governorate of Iraqi Kurdistan. Right there, rising just 15 meters above the surrounding Bazian Valley and spanning a mere 2 hectares, lies a modest earthen mound known as Kani Shaie. To the untrained eye, it might look like nothing more than an unusual hill interrupting the flat expanse of the valley floor. But beneath its sun-baked surface, archaeologists have unearthed a 7,000-year-old tapestry of human history that is fundamentally rewriting our understanding of the ancient world. For decades, historians and archaeologists have painted the dawn of civilization as a phenomenon strictly confined to the fertile, flat alluvial plains of southern Mesopotamia. It was there, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, that Uruk, often heralded as the world's first metropolis, rose to prominence during the 4th millennium BCE. But recent groundbreaking discoveries at Kani Shaie, culminating in a spectacular find in late 2025, have revealed an architectural and cultural anomaly that completely defies traditional historical narratives. Far from being a peripheral backwater, this small highland settlement was home to a monumental, richly decorated cultic building directly tied to the urban explosion of Uruk nearly 300 miles to the south. The Kani Shaie anomaly forces us to ask some very difficult questions. How did the architectural grandeur, complex bureaucracy, and immense wealth of the world's first supercity find its way into a remote mountain valley? And more importantly, what role did these resilient highland communities play in the grand theater of the world's first urban revolution? To understand the sheer magnitude of the discoveries at Kani Shaie, we first need to understand the immense shadow cast by Uruk itself. Flourishing between 3,300 and 3,100 BCE, during the late Chalcolithic period, Uruk was an absolute leviathan of the ancient world. At its height, the city boasted a massive population of up to 80,000 people. Think about that for a moment. In an era when most of humanity lived in small, scattered agricultural villages of maybe a few hundred people at most, an urban concentration of 80,000 people was practically unfathomable. It was the New York or Tokyo of the Bronze Age. It was in Uruk that some of the most critical milestones of human progress were achieved. We are talking about the invention of precursor cuneiform writing, the birth of complex state administration, the mass production of pottery like the famous beveled rim bowl, which was basically the ancient world's Tupperware for paying workers in grain rations, and the construction of colossal temple precincts dedicated to deities like Inanna, the goddess of love and war, and Anu, the sky god. But Uruk had a massive, glaring problem. As the city grew, its demand for resources skyrocketed. They desperately needed timber for roofs, precious metals for religious artifacts, and exotic stones for tools and high-status decorations. Southern Mesopotamia was rich in mud and reeds, which was fantastic for building adobe walls and weaving baskets. But the region was completely destitute of these other vital raw materials. This severe resource disparity birthed what archaeologists call the Uruk expansion. This was a fascinating period when the powerful southern city-states pushed outward, establishing a vast network of colonies, enclaves, and outposts stretching across modern-day Syria, Turkey, and Iran. For a long time, the traditional archaeological consensus operated on what is known as the core-periphery model. This model basically argued that Uruk, the highly advanced core, dictated all terms to the surrounding highlands, the less developed periphery. Under this theory, Uruk established outposts solely to extract wealth, mine raw materials, and funnel everything back to the sprawling metropolis. The highland peoples were historically viewed as passive subjects or mere trading partners, firmly under the thumb of southern Mesopotamian dominance. The famous site of Göbekli Tepe in Iran was long considered the quintessential Zagros outpost of this expansion, a perfect example of southern merchants setting up shop to control highland trade routes. But Kani Shaie presents a completely baffling contradiction to this long-established narrative. Geographically speaking, the Bazian Valley is situated totally off the major ancient trade routes that connected southern Mesopotamia to the Iranian plateau. Furthermore, the immediate vicinity of Kani Shaie entirely lacks the highly coveted raw materials like copper, timber, or lapis lazuli that typically attracted Uruk's mercantile expansionists. By all conventional historical logic, a sophisticated Uruk-style administrative and religious center had absolutely no business being there. It makes no sense. Yet, there it is. A metropolis in miniature, thriving in the highlands. To figure out why this impossible site exists, we need to look at how it was uncovered. Though first noted by antiquarians over a century ago, Kani Shaie remained largely untouched until 2012, when the Kani Shaie archaeological project was officially formed. Systematic excavations began in September 2013. The project was directed by a brilliant, dedicated team of researchers, including André Thome and Ricardo Cabral from the University of Coimbra, alongside Dr. Steve Renette of the University of Cambridge and the University of Pennsylvania, working in close collaboration with the Slimani Directorate of Antiquities and Heritage. This project was born out of a crucial necessity: to correct a massive blind spot in Mesopotamian archaeology. Because of decades of geopolitical instability, the eastern Tigris region and the Zagros foothills had been critically under-researched, leaving huge gaps in our understanding of human history. From the very outset, the team deployed cutting-edge archaeological methodologies. They used deep stratigraphic trenching, advanced radiocarbon dating, and 3D scanning of artifacts to meticulously piece together the region's obscured past. What they found as they dug deeper into the earth was nothing short of staggering. The team identified 15 distinct occupational layers stacked on top of each other, tracing an unbroken, continuous line of human habitation from the Chalcolithic era around 6500 BCE, right through the Bronze and Iron Ages, into the Hellenistic Parthian and Neo-Assyrian periods, and all the way up to a medieval Kurdish cemetery from the Ottoman era. However, it was the late Chalcolithic layers corresponding specifically to the Uruk-period that yielded the most paradigm-shifting evidence. During the autumn 2025 excavation campaign, heavily funded by the Portuguese Foundation for Science and Technology, the team made a discovery that sent massive shockwaves through the entire archaeological community. Perched on the upper part of the artificial mound, the team painstakingly uncovered the massive foundations and remnants of an officially constructed monumental building. This was clearly not a simple village dwelling. The sheer scale, the intricate layout, and the highly advanced construction techniques heavily implied a public, ceremonial, or cultic space. It was a temple or shrine where ritualistic and administrative activities intricately converged under one massive roof. While the exact deities worshipped there remained veiled by time, the architectural DNA of the building was absolutely unmistakable. It was a direct, undeniable reflection of southern Mesopotamian grandeur brought into the mountains. The absolute smoking gun, the most striking piece of evidence confirming this connection, was the discovery of wall cones scattered throughout the structure. If you look at the great temples of Uruk, architects decorated massive mud brick walls by pressing thousands of baked clay or stone cones directly into the wet plaster. The flat, exposed heads of these cones were painted in vibrant reds, blacks, and whites, creating dazzling, mesmerizing geometric mosaics that covered the temple facades and gleamed in the Mesopotamian sun. Finding these highly distinctive, incredibly labor-intensive architectural elements at Kani Shaie, a small settlement hundreds of miles to the north, was essentially akin to finding a piece of the Roman Colosseum hidden away in a remote Scottish glen. It proved unequivocally that the building served a high-status ceremonial function and that the local builders were intimately fluent in the complex architectural language of the world's first metropolis. They weren't just copying, they understood the cultural grammar of Uruk. But the monumental building did not just yield architectural marvels. It also housed vital artifacts that paint a vivid picture of Kani Shaie's sophisticated socio-economic status. Among the debris, archaeologists recovered a fragment of a delicately crafted gold pendant. In the ancient world, gold was the ultimate symbol of social prestige, immense wealth, and elite status. Its presence in the Bezian Valley completely shatters the long-held illusion that highland communities of the 4th millennium BCE were impoverished, marginal, or primitive. Instead, it indicates that the elites of Kani Shaie had the immense wealth, deep political connections, and sheer power to acquire ultra-luxury goods from highly distant trade networks. The gold was likely imported from miles away, proving these highlanders were global players in the ancient economy. Equally significant are the administrative artifacts recovered from the site. The archaeological team has unearthed multiple cylinder seals and clay seal impressions. Invented during the Uruk period, cylinder seals were intricately carved stone cylinders that, when rolled across wet clay, left a continuous frieze of incredibly detailed images. They functioned exactly like ancient signatures, used to seal storage jars, secure doors, and authenticate crucial trade records. The seals found at Kani Shaie feature classic Uruk motifs, linking the highland site directly to the massive bureaucratic machinery of the southern plains. One particularly remarkable find from earlier excavations at the site was a numerical clay tablet bearing a seal impression and an early numerical sign. These numerical tablets are widely regarded by historians as the immediate precursors to the invention of full cuneiform writing. The fact that administrative tools of this immense sophistication were being actively utilized at Kani Shaie proves that the settlement was a vibrant, functioning node of complex bureaucracy and advanced economic management. They were counting goods, managing supplies and tracking wealth, just like the megacity to the south. Interestingly, while some seal impressions are distinctly Uruk in style, others reflect a highly localized Zagros Piedmont tradition. This cultural hybridization is incredibly crucial to understand. It strongly suggests that Kani Shaie was not merely colonized and stripped of its local identity. Rather, its inhabitants actively engaged with, adapted, and seamlessly integrated southern Mesopotamian technologies into their own rich, indigenous cultural frameworks. They took the best of Uruk and made it distinctly their own. So we have to return to our massive geographic question. If Kani Shaie lacked raw materials and sat far off the primary ancient highways, why did it become such a vital, powerful center? The answer lies not in shiny rocks or lumber, but in the complex topography and the intense military history of the Zagros Mountains. The Bazian Valley serves as a critical borderland, a highly specific transitional zone between the flat, sprawling Mesopotamian alluvium and the rugged, impenetrable mountain corridors of Iran. Kani Shaie is centrally located right within this valley, offering unparalleled visibility and ultimate control over the entire surrounding landscape. You can see anyone coming from miles away. History has repeatedly, violently proven the absolute strategic importance of this exact location. The valley features the infamous Bazian Pass, known in antiquity as Babite. This narrow, treacherous choke point has been the site of fierce historical contests for millennia. It is the ultimate geographic bottleneck. During the Bronze Age, the valley was part of the land of Lulubum, a formidable mountain kingdom whose intense, bloody conflicts with Mesopotamian empires were immortalized on the famous victory stele of the Akkadian king Naram Sin around 2150 BCE, a monument whose powerful imagery is echoed on nearby ancient rock reliefs at Darbandi Gawar. Centuries later, in 881 BCE, the terrifying Neo-Assyrian king Assur-Nasir-Pal II was forced to violently march his massive armies through a blockade at this very pass, constructed by a defiant local ruler named Nur-Adad. The strategic bottleneck proved so incredibly effective that the exact same defensive tactic was repeated nearly 3 millennia later, in 1805 CE, when Kurdish resistance leader Abd al-Rahman built a massive wall across the pass to desperately halt the advance of Ottoman imperial troops. When you view the site through this lens of long-term geographical strategy, the supposed anomaly of Kani Shaie begins to make perfect, logical sense. During the massive Uruk expansion, controlling the Bazian Valley meant completely controlling a vital geopolitical buffer zone. Even if the valley didn't overflow with precious copper or dazzling lapis lazuli, it offered unparalleled security, robust agricultural stability, and a highly watchful eye over the highland passes. Kani Shaie, with its monumental shrine and heavily fortified mound, likely served as a crucial diplomatic and administrative hinge connecting the lowland urbanites with the fierce mountain tribes. It was a fortress of diplomacy, trade, and observation, essentially an ancient forward operating base fused with a religious embassy. The story of Kani Shaie, however, is not a simple, linear upward trajectory of continuous growth. It is a profoundly human story of resilience, marked by intense cycles of settlement, destruction, and brilliant adaptation. Following the rapid collapse of the Uruk expansion network at the end of the 4th millennium BCE, a highly chaotic period marked by the sudden, massive abandonment of many southern outposts, Kani Shaie did not simply disappear into the dust of history. Stratigraphic evidence clearly reveals that while the monumental center may have been violently destroyed or purposefully abandoned, the site quickly, efficiently transitioned into a highly prosperous agricultural village. The grand, towering architecture was replaced by smaller, continuously rebuilt domestic structures, but the site fiercely retained its role as a vital local administrative hub, as evidenced by the continued heavy use of local cylinder seals on large storage jars. The people adapted to survive. As the millennia slowly turned, the mound continuously attracted new generations of settlers, proving the eternal value of its location. Excavations in the flatter, lower town area of the site have revealed extensive, fascinating occupation layers from the Hellenistic Parthian period, stretching from 247 BCE to 224 CE, and the Neo-Assyrian period from around 911 to 609 BCE. The stunning discovery of a Neo-Assyrian cylinder seal further underscores that even thousands of years after the dramatic fall of Uruk, Kani Shaie deeply retained its regional importance within the massive imperial networks of the Iron Age. It was a site that empires simply could not afford to ignore. The ongoing, thrilling revelations from the Kani Shaie archaeological project represent a monumental, earth-shattering shift in Near Eastern archaeology. For generations, the standard narrative of human progress has been decidedly unipolar, focusing almost obsessively on the great southern cities like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu, while completely treating the Zagros Mountains as a wild, untamed frontier, populated only by passive or highly antagonistic barbarians. Kani Shaie entirely dismantles this outdated, antiquated view. The stunning 2025 discovery of the monumental Uruk-period building, complete with its metropolitan architectural flourishes like those dazzling painted wall cones, alongside elite gold adornments and highly advanced bureaucratic tools, absolutely proves that the cradle of civilization was vastly more expansive, complex, and deeply interconnected than we ever previously imagined. The highland communities of the Zagros were absolutely not just quiet spectators to the world's first urban revolution. They were active, vital, extremely intelligent participants. They engaged heavily in the complex exchange of religious ideologies, advanced administrative practices, and incredibly rare luxury goods. They engineered and built massive monumental structures that easily rivaled the provincial temples of the southern plains. They brilliantly adapted the world's very first writing systems to meticulously manage their own local economies, showing a level of autonomy and sophistication that totally breaks the old core-periphery model. As the dedicated researchers at the University of Coimbra in Cambridge continue to carefully analyze these latest, incredible findings, utilizing amazing modern technology like 3D printing and advanced digital reconstruction to beautifully bring these ancient stones back to life, the true, profound significance of Kani Shaie is finally coming into perfect focus. It serves as a powerful, undeniable reminder that human history is rarely as simple as a highly advanced core dictating terms to a primitive periphery. True civilization is often forged out there in the borderlands, in those beautiful, chaotic spaces where completely different topographies, cultures, and radical ideas violently and brilliantly collide. Today, the modest 15-meter mound of Kani Shaie stands quietly in the Bazian Valley, baking under the exact same sun that watched the world's very first bureaucrats carefully roll their intricate stone seals across wet clay over 5,000 years ago. It is no longer just a forgotten hill of dirt and fragmented pottery. It is a stunning, monumental testament to the enduring complexity, intelligence, and resilience of the ancient mountain peoples. It is a brilliant metropolis in miniature that has forever changed our entire understanding of how the great human story was originally written. Thank you for tuning in to this deep dive on G Fun Facts Online. We hope this journey into the ancient Zagros Mountains has completely shifted how you view the dawn of civilization. Keep exploring the past, question the established narratives, and remember that sometimes the most earth-shattering discoveries are hidden beneath a modest mound of dirt, just waiting for the right moment to see the sun again. Stay curious, and we will see you in the next episode.